Well, hey Gundam fans, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. Today we're continuing our look at the MS Igloo series. We're on Gravity Front, the second episode. So this is from the point of view of the Federation. And it involves that Angel of Death, the kind of supernatural aspect that's not too dissimilar to New Type, so it could be related, but it's still kind of out of place for what we're watching. This episode is called Kings of the Jungle Rollout. And it actually has to do with the tanks. So I'll be really talking about one of the Federation tanks here. And if you haven't, please subscribe. And hopefully by the end of the video, it's worth liking as well. But yeah, let's jump into it. Okay, really cool opening shot here. Just showing kind of the death and destruction that had occurred on Earth. Yeah, that's scary. And here we get a look at the White Ogre. So while there's not much information about the White Ogre, there has been a model kit of it, and you can kind of get a look at it here. It looks very cool, just, you know, a typical Zaku 2 that's in white. And there actually is a specific pilot for it. The pilot is Elmer Snell, and we actually don't get a look at him, or we don't really get a good look. In fact, we get to see his hand. So although I got to say that's pretty cool for a type of pilot within the UC timeline during the 1 Year War, one that piloted a Zaku that they called the White Ogre because it's painted white, and the Ogre just because of how it was on the battlefield. And here we meet Sergeant Ray-Ban Serat. So when it comes to Gundam names, that one's pretty cool because it's Ray-Ban. I don't know, it seems to be cool. But it reminds me of the other episodes where you're introduced to this character that's experiencing kind of the dread around him, and he's actually being assigned to a specific officer here that's part of the tank division, because I guess their job here is these types of tanks that I'm about to get into is a pilot and a gunner, so it's a two-seater, and they've been going out on the battlefield here, and this is around that time where you know, the Federation didn't really have mobile suits, or just not a lot, not anything mass production yet. That, you know, Zeon knew about, or even some of these officers knew about. So they're still relying on the tanks, and the tanks are actually really good. So here they kind of dive deep into the tank, and let's get a look at the actual tank. This is the M61A5 MBT, and it's actually sort of an evolution of a tank that we saw from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. Let's see if we go develop from, yeah, the Type 61 tank. And that's, in fact, what Yandel, one of the main guys we're about to talk to here, calls his tank the 61. And, you know, just kind of looking at like the armaments, for instance, it has, let's see, this 155 millimeter smooth bore cannon. And so these are the dual cannons that you see in the front, and they're really good at taking out Zaku's. There's a 7.62 millimeter coaxial machine gun, a 13.2 millimeter M60 heavy machine gun, and a 5.56 millimeter M299 machine gun. Also has smoke dischargers, which were used in a pretty strategic way, or tactical way, in this episode. We'll see a little later when there's the tanks circling around some mobile suits. By shooting the smoke discharges, it was hard to actually see where the tanks were. In the mobile suits, the Zakus had trouble targeting them and finding them. Yeah, here's kind of a cool look at it, just seeing the front, the top, and the side, and the back. Just really cool. Looks like kind of the standard, like U.S. military type of tank, which I see as, you know, the Federation's evolution of that technology and design. And we kind of see what they have now here set up. And Herman Yandel, he's the pilot we meet, the tank pilot. And yeah, there's really not too much about him here, except that he had a run-in with the White Ogre, took out a lot of his men, and he's crazy about finding him to take revenge, to be able to take him out. So this is where then that dark spirit, or that angel of death kind of pops up. In fact, you could actually cut it out completely of this episode, and it wouldn't really make a difference. You start seeing it when Ray-Ban meets Yandel for the first time. As you go on through the episode, there's like a flashback to the beginning where he was saying, if you ever see this angel of death around me, you know, let me know, because I guess there was a scene where it was actually behind him, and it's that lady that looks like, and they even mentioned it, Zeon lady, so I guess she's in like some Zeon uniform, perhaps. But what's interesting is a lot of soldiers that worked under Yandel in the past either went crazy or got killed. So that's kind of where this angle of Angel of Death comes from for him, although they even call the White Ogre that in a way. And in fact, there's a point where the White Ogre Zaku is looking through its viewfinder, and you see the Angel of Death kind of superimposed on the viewfinder. A little weird, but so it's almost like there's not one like specific angle to where this Angel of Death is applied. It seems to just be the general theme of when there is death and destruction, it has to do with the Angel of Death. At the same time, you really could cut all those bits out and the story still makes sense. This story would just be about the tank division trying to hold off the Principality of Zeon as they're invading Earth, and a run-in with the White Ogre. And as the wiki states, this is a very similar story to Moby Dick. So it's just, that's where the story lies. And again, you could take out this Angel of Death. That seems, I mean, it's interesting, but it's more of just odd and out of place, because if that's related to a new type ability, I think they would spell that out, but they don't. Really cool way they do these shots here. Yeah, and you know, something I really got to add is the way this looks. Even though, again, it's that PS2 CGI I always talk about, by the time they get this far in the series, it is very well done. I would say the only complaint is the facial animations. Sometimes they're just way too over the top and cartoony, and it doesn't really match with the serious nature. I mean, a lot of times if we're looking at these shots like this one right now, which is just fantastic, they are adding as much realism as they can. Environmental realism, as we can see, lighting. They're really taking lighting composition into account here. So again, it looks fantastic, but the facial animations can be a little too cartoony. You know, one unsettling thing are the amount of scars on this guy's face. It doesn't even look like the typical stitch-up scar. It looks like, you know, the kind of football laces. And that could be telling to how some of these soldiers are treated out on the battlefield, and they just get kind of mediocre care to their wounds. I don't know. Cool shot with all these tanks, great music. It really sets the tone. And so it looks like in this part of the war, what we're seeing, we know the Principality of Zeon was invading Earth during the 1 Year War. Right now, it looks like what they're talking about is they're pushing the Earth Federation forces to the English Channel. So assumptions, they're like in northern France. Even a shout out to Colonel Nguyen Bitter. So this was a Zeon colonel that was in 0083 that was helping Annabelle Gatto get his the stolen GPO-2 out into space. So we can see that he was over in the European front, and I guess even after the 1 Year War, he survived but stayed behind along the other Zeon remnants. So a nice, cool little connection between the second episode of MS Igloo and 0083 Stardust Memory. So another interesting thing here is there are a few times where they go to roll out in the tank and it just stops working, so they can't go. And so this kind of gets to Ray-Ban, where he decides to go to his commanding officer and kind of request being removed from being under the command of his full name being Herman Yandel. And although because of that, because he wanted to be kind of moved away from working with him, it actually set in motion another event. Yandel wanted to do a night attack to take out Zeon forces in the area, who he believed the White Ogre was leading, because he really just wanted to get revenge. That's why he came up with this operation. And not wanting to be, Ray-Ban not wanting to be under his command anymore, the commanding officer said, okay, you know what? This is what we'll do. Yandel, Ray-Ban, you guys go out at night, do this operation, take out whatever Zeons you could find. All right, we see some Magellan tanks against Earth Federation tanks, so kind of cool to see the back and forth battles. I mean, these shots are great. Again, love this stuff. Very reminiscent of old school propaganda, stuff that Paul Verhoeven utilized, like in Starship Troopers. You know, seeing these like propaganda videos, but I love the graininess, the CRT monitor look. You got the music to it. I mean, I love this stuff. This really does kind of help, again, with that further world building of the Principality of Zeon during the 1 Year War. Here we see the White Ogre. There's that little flashback shot of just what happened at the beginning of this episode, except that they're showing behind Yandel that there's this, Lady of Death, Angel of Death, whatever you want to call it. Kind of creepy. Reminds me of Exorcists and stuff like that, but just kind of a weird thing thrown in here. I know, I've mentioned that a bunch. All right. Here the fighting begins. Very cool stuff. All right, so they're using smoke as a tactic against the Zaku's. And they need an elevation, so they use wreckage for that. Looks like a scene out of a horror movie. The Zaku just falling into the smoke. Very well done. And so the White Ogre thought it actually took out all the tanks, and then it turned around and realized there's another one here. These are our main characters, and they actually take out the White Ogre. They can't celebrate for long, right? Because of the Angel of Death and everything. Here we go. Yeah, it's pretty dark. He takes out the White Ogre, but he himself dies, unfortunately. First Lieutenant Herman Yandel, tank platoon commander. Let's see. It killed in action European Northern Front, so that's what they're referring to it as. With career MS kills 7. It's pretty good. So that is it for Kings of the Jungle rollout, which is the second of the MS Igloo Gravity Front series. And actually, it's pretty cool. I think it's really good CGI. We get to see the tanks battling. And the Angel of Death doesn't show up too much to kind of throw you off, but it's just enough to be like throwing you off. So subscribe if you haven't. Give this video a like if you think it's worth it, or for Zeon, of course. And thanks for watching. We'll talk later.